Всем привет! I have here with me Maria. Maria, how are you?
There.
And we are in Russia, and Maria is a Russian woman, could you imagine? And we're going to talk about this topic, about dating, dating culture, cultural norms, all those spicy little things. First of all, Maria, could you possibly tell me about Russian women?
Well, actually, there are lots of stereotypes about Russian women, and last night I asked my boyfriend about that. Like, what is the most common stereotype? And he was like, "Suchki." Do you know this word?
Bitch.
Bitches.
Yeah.
Russian women are probably known as bitches or mercantile ones, but actually that's not true. We can divide the Russian women.
So what does, sorry, one moment.
Yeah?
Maria, what does that really mean? Like, what does bitch mean in this context?
So it means that Russian women are really into rich men, and on the one hand it's really true, but on the other hand it's not true. I will explain. So we can divide women into some groups. Like the first group is about the women who live in small towns or in the suburbs or something like this, in small districts. They have a very different mentality. They have a poor mentality, I would say.
Sorry, just to cut you off, can we just say everyone who's not in Moscow? Is that too much of a cut?
Who are not from just big cities like Moscow, Ekatrinburg, St.
So cities below like 1 million or something like this.
Yeah. And from the suburbs, from poor districts maybe, they can be mercantile in one way because they are looking for a man who will rescue them from the poverty. Something like this. And the second group of Russian women is the really successful women who live in this district, for example. This is the center of the city. They are successful themselves and they are looking for a successful partner, well, just to have a successful family and a partnership. Because the richer the person is, the more different the mentality is. I've noticed it myself. And so these women,
how would it be different? So in say the bottom half of incomes or bottom quarter, how would the mentality vary to like wealthier elites, like people who are rich and make their kids rich as a result?
They focus on absolutely different dreams and different goals, different things about money. Actually, poorer women, with a poorer mentality, I would say, they focus on the loans, probably on just the rich loans. When you take a credit, like
borrowing money.
Yeah, from borrowing
and
money.
And doing what with that?
To buy a new iPhone, of course. Not to insult the women, but I faced lots of alike women actually.
Well, this is about, for me, this whole conversation is about your experience, what you've seen. So actually, if you have a lot of anecdotes, then it's very valid for the conversation.
No, I don't know any actually about that, but it's not just my experience. That's an experience. Well, it's just a full picture actually.
All right.
Well, these women simply dream about bigger things, about being more successful, about being rescued by some more successful people and something like this.
So I've met a lot of people in Russia, but out of those, say, bottom half of income earners, how many of them are like that? Like, are really hungry for credit? Is it actually a lot, or would it be like 5% of poor people, half?
No, I would say more than 50%.
More than 50%?
A lot of people in Russia take a loan from a bank for an iPhone.
Wow.
They are simply expensive in our country.
Yeah,
and the salaries are quite lower than the salaries in Europe, actually. So, well, it doesn't matter now. And the second type of women is the women who live in the center of the city. And like, no.
Oh, you want to do a showing?
It's impossible to show. Well, actually, this building is hiding
you can't
behind the trees.
Yeah,
but these apartments are quite expensive though, and successful people live there. And so these women are called mercantile too, but actually I think that this is absolutely fine for a woman if you are successful yourself, It's absolutely okay to look for a successful partner because it's just another responsibility of a man. When, I don't know, that's something about the mentality. It's okay, I think. So that's the main stereotype, that the women are bitches. Actually, it's only said about the women who live in poor districts or small towns, because they want a better life and they crave for a better life. And sometimes they even ask for it from their husbands, from the boyfriends, not just husbands. So yeah.
What do you mean ask for it? Like they're asking their boyfriends to buy them an iPhone? Or
yeah.
What does that mean, for example?
Yeah, many, not to insult Russian women, actually I love women, they are amazing, really, I think this, but I've met a lot of girls who are so selfish, so they think that the husband or the boyfriend must buy them a Porsche Cayenne, for example, or the iPhone or something like this, and they say, I like to have a really rich and wealthy husband, except in spite of working.
So a nice fantasy to have. So a lot of these girls have this fantasy, but of course there's only a small number of men who can provide this in Russia. So what happens to these girls? They start getting older, they just be more realistic, or what happens to them? Because
they become more realistic, or just start working themselves. When they cannot find a husband, like a rich enough husband, they just start working themselves. And some of them, of course, some of them break this poverty and start earning good money if they work on their mentality, of course. But some of them just stay in a toxic relationship when they ask for some money, when they ask for some iPhones, and the man doesn't give them, and they stay in this relationship. That's okay.
All right, so man, that's a big one. We've gone 7 minutes on the money thing, because that's kind of like, in terms of cultural disconnects between West and Slavic world, that's probably the #1 thing, or one of the 2, maybe 3 biggest things. So good we covered that. Is that all on that topic?
Difference?
Yeah, big difference.
What is it?
Really big difference.
Because I know a little about Western women.
Yeah.
And Eastern women.
Yeah, I mean, not to get into the thing too much, but I mean, very quickly, I think money almost doesn't matter at all in Australia. It matters a little bit if she's left over into the 30s. She might be more worried about money, but it's more about probably physical attraction's probably the most important thing. Money's still a consideration, earning's still a consideration, but I would say looks are more important.
Well, looks are important there too.
They're important here as well, yeah.
Some women are trying not to take a loan, but to save money for a brand bag, for example, or to a Michael Kors bag, to a Guess bag. They're not quite expensive, but a lot of people just need to save the money for that, just to look a little bit more successful than they are.
So is that giving them direct happiness, or is that all about impressing other people?
Impressing other people, I would say. Yeah.
Because I see this a lot, and I'm like, look, I know what the average salary is here, and this city's, we're in Ekatrinburg, and this is probably one of the higher income cities around, not super high, but fairly high by Russian standards. And I'm looking at the bag, I'm looking at the girl, I'm like, for what that is in real terms, I could probably buy a car in Australia for that. I'm just like, something's not quite working. Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not that much. I mean, I've known girls in Australia who have like $5,000 handbags. So I don't know much about the market for handbags, but if that's what they're doing here, even like just $2,000, it's like, that's like 4 months salary. And 4 months salary in Australia is probably like maybe 20,000, right? So you can buy a simple entry-level car for that, yeah.
Well, it's just the thing about the brands, simple brands that are used to be mediocre in America, for example. They show the success, a real success, and they're quite expensive there. Well, that's
I think, okay, so I'm thinking like Christian Dior. I think I'm thinking a level up, actually. So
Christian
little bit
Dior
of a miss there.
Is much higher.
yeah, okay. All right, I got you. All right, so one of the biggest stereotypes of Russian women from the West, guys that are kind of disillusioned, is that Russian women are traditional, which of course is a complicated term in itself, but I guess in terms of like cooking, cleaning, being domesticated, wanting children, big family, and stay at home and take care of them. Is this a realistic stereotype, or is this just like fantasy?
It's not a stereotype and not a fantasy, because we are taught about this from the childhood.
Wow.
Yeah. When I was a child, my granny tried to teach me to...
As babushkas.
Babushka, moja babushka. My granny tried to teach me how to clean the floor, how to wash the dishes. She always corrected me like, you're doing everything wrong. I hate housework. Frankly speaking, I hate housework. And when I'm earning enough money, I will hire a housewife.
House cleaner.
House cleaner, yes, because I really hate it, and this hate is just from the childhood, but actually I'm really into having the kids in future, at least 2 kids, maybe even more. I'm from a traditional family. When we have a village house, when we have a garden from potatoes, so we need to dig out the potatoes, we do it with our whole family. It's a tradition that's okay for us. Of course, we have the girls who are like child-free, who are against that traditional ways.
All right, so we've got a mixture going on here. I've noticed that myself as well. Like, I've noticed this is a wide range of attitudes. There's a lot that are like allergic to children, and then some are like, I want 5. Like, it's interesting, the variation. Although you don't see many families of 5 around, but nonetheless.
There is a little problem with raising children in Russia, but that's a political one.
All right.
Because the salaries are quite low, and many people who have many children, they simply raise these children from the payments from the government. They do not work, so poor families. It's quite a common problem.
Well, let me interrupt just for one moment. If you're enjoying the video, you're getting value from it, you think it's a great watch, please click like, and then I know that you want more of this type of content. And of course, if you're a regular viewer and you're not a subscriber, time to reach out and commit and hit subscribe. Stereotypes about the men?
Okay.
Stereotypes about the men.
A lot of Russian men. A lot of Russian men are seen from other cultures and countries like the alcohol drinking ones. Well, it's a common conversation when a foreign person says, "Oh, you don't drink vodka, why?" Or Russians drink vodka too much and they drink it every day, like, and dance with a bear. Of course, that's absolutely not true. But Russian men, especially the Russian men from the suburbs, we do not have the suburbs in Russia in its like a common definition. We have just simple poor and small districts and the villages and the small towns. And usually the men from these small towns, from the villages, they work like on factories, which is actually not bad. It's okay, but they are tend to be addicted to alcohol a lot. Yeah, so it's kind of a stereotype, but on the other hand, it depends. Depends.
I see this a lot. I mean, I see that only a small proportion of people drink a lot, but the ones that drink a lot drink like just truckloads. Like just then this guy, it's like 3 in the afternoon, he couldn't stand up to get his cigarette out of his packet. He's like swaying there like that. It's like, oh man.
That's not a common.
And it's
you were very lucky to see it. Actually.
Really?
Yeah, because people who drink a lot, they don't do it in the center. They do it at home. And do not show themselves to the public.
Really? Because I noticed in Moscow, like pretty much every train station had like dudes passed out on benches, this kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting. But so they're at home doing it. That's interesting. All right. So what about Russian men in terms of in a relationship, their attitudes towards relationships? What are they bringing to the table? What do they expect?
I would divide the men into some groups as well. Because,
I love your brain. It's so like, let's divide into categories. It's like, oh, you're speaking my language. Let's get an Excel spreadsheet and categorize everyone. Yes.
Well, actually, because I don't have a huge experience of dating men. I've had just 2 serious relationships in my life. The first half of the men are greedy. Really greedy, yeah.
Oh my
because
goodness,
they have because they have a low salary, and the woman next to them can be mercantile and ask for a new iPhone and something like this. So they simply cannot afford buying her a new iPhone, and they are greedy. Well, yeah.
So just to go off on a bit of a tangent, do Russian women love men?
Yeah.
Or they love stuff?
Well, that's kind of a good question. It depends on the level of mentality, of course, because like I'm dating a boyfriend. We've been together for 1 year. He is a really great man, and I do not pay attention to his salary. He's an architect, by the way. I don't pay attention to it. He gives me presents, of course. He gives me presents. I love the presents. He gives me flowers and some stuff. We travel together quite often. We go and well, visit some new places together as well. But actually, I do not pay attention to the house he was grown in. I do not pay attention to the clothes he used to wear before we met, and something like this.
Did you change his wardrobe?
A bit. He changed it himself next to me. Yeah.
Sure.
It just happened itself. So I love his personality. I know that he is quite ambitious, and he dreams big. He have the higher goals, and I just know that he will succeed, truly succeed. And I support him. I help him, and etc. So I do not like the stuff. I love the personality.
And what happens if he doesn't succeed?
I
Tough
guess that's
question.
impossible next to me. I would call myself a kind of a successful girl because I'm quite ambitious myself. I dream big. I achieve my big goals. So I wouldn't stand a poor mentally person next to me.
All right.
So yeah.
Perfect. All right. So what are the stereotypes about men?
They are fat. And that's true. A lot of Russian men, if they are rich, even though they are not rich, they have a big tummy, a big one. All of my uncles have a huge tummy, really.
Is that from
Beer.
alcohol? It is from alcohol.
Yeah. It's beer. I was born in just a simple family, actually, and all of my uncles, all of the men from my family, they prefer beer on Fridays next to the TV and something like this. So other stereotypes, well, men are fat and not quite attractive, some of them. And that's not a stereotype, that is true. Yeah, we can barely find a really good-looking man in Russia. And with a good mentality. It needs to be combined. It simply needs to be combined. Well, I don't remember about the other stereotypes, actually. I think I always thought that the main stereotype about Russian people is that we drink vodka every day and dance with a bear.
Dance with the bear. Oh, goodness. All right.
Actually, there was, well, I'm from a small town, and recently the bear was shooted in my hometown.
It was just walking down the street and
yes, he was trying to cross the road to the living section.
Right.
So he was shooted.
As you do. I am aware that the divorce rate in Russia is pretty high. Is this correct?
It is correct.
It is correct.
It is
why?
correct. Actually, that's a very interesting question because my parents are divorced too. That was a difficult experience for me, but now I feel happy that they have divorced. Actually, yeah, they couldn't stand each other, and that was a great way to become happy separately.
So they were kind of arguing and fighting and...
Fighting a bit, and alcohol problem as well.
Alcohol, yeah.
Yeah, and well, the younger generation is tend to get divorced more frequently, more often. Interesting. Because the older generation, especially, well, my grandparents, not just my parents, yeah, my grandparents' generation, they have another type of mentality because people from the Soviet Union were tend to be very, very religious. Some of them are just religious, some of them are deeply religious, and it used to be a sin to get divorced. Even if you have like strong arguments between you and some serious problems, no, that was a sin to get divorced. So my grandparents from my dad's side are really, really different people. I don't know how they can stand each other, but they've been together for 84 years. And
84 years?
Yeah. Imagine that. And
they would have been together before 18. Okay, so they're in their 90s. They're like 90-something years old. How old?
No, 70.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said 80 years. Oh, they've been together since the 80s.
No, it's 48.
48 years, sorry.
They've been 48 years together.
Okay.
And I guess that if it used to be okay to get divorced in the Soviet Union, they would get divorced in the Soviet Union. Well, but the younger generation doesn't think the same. For us, it's not a problem to realize that, well, this person is just not for me. We do not go well with each other. And that's not a problem to break up and to get divorced.
So why does it happen? Like, why do, like, when you choose somebody, I assume that people are thinking about forever rather than convenience. Maybe I'm wrong.
Not all people.
Not all people.
No, not all people. And some of the couples, some of the young families get married after 1 month of getting known each other. So they know each other for 1 month. They can be together for the whole life, but that's an exception. It's more often when you can see a picture that when they go to the same organization to get divorced in a month. So probably some men are tend to fighting, are tend to punching. That's a big problem too, especially in small towns and the suburbs.
So if they're getting together after 1 month, what's the motivator there? Like, why are they pulling the trigger so quickly? Is it like parental pressure, or have parents helped to get them together to try to screen or something? So they just meet each other, they like the look of each other, and then a month later get married.
Well, actually, that was also a question about the love from the first sight. I believe that the love from the first sight doesn't exist, but you can feel your soulmate. You absolutely can feel your soulmate from the first contact.
Okay.
But the love comes after. And some people, when they meet together, they can feel this. They can feel this fire inside of them, and think, well, he's my soul, he's my soulmate, and get together in a month. But actually, people tend to change, maybe even through the months of relationship, through the years of relationship, and after they just realize that they do not go well with each other. So it's not a sin now; it's okay. It's a regular practice. Well, I guess that they just think that this is the soul they've been looking for the whole life.
Is there any kind of like competitive kind of thing going on? So for example, maybe in a smaller town there's less options, it's difficult to meet someone good, so when you meet someone pretty good you just like go for it because you're worried about missing out or something? Is this maybe a factor?
Partially it is. But actually I want to tell you about the most common practice. When a girl is being quite long in a relationship, about the 5 or even 7 years, and the man doesn't do a step to ask her to propose her, ask her to get married, and etc. They break up. After that, the woman finds another man. They are being together for 1 month, and he's being proposed. It's a really common practice.
And does that then work out better because they're on the same page, or this still ends up badly, or not sure?
50-50. Like, in this case, the most frequent practice is when they live quite long together after the marriage.